Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us today for another episode of Leadership for the Now. My name is Florin Lungu, and I'm so delighted to be with you today. And today, I'm joined by a wonderful guest, Mathilde from FreshLand. Welcome, Mathilde.
Thank you for the invitation.
How are you doing today?
I'm fine. I'm a bit busy. So yeah,
I
it's
know
our
it's
deadline today. So at midnight we are closing for sales. So it's always a busy day on Wednesdays.
right. I remember that because that was when I first started to order and I first learned about the product that you're offering. And I know that Wednesday it's a busy day for you. So we're gonna keep this in the 30 minutes that we have scheduled. So tell us a little bit about yourself and FreshLand. How did everything started? What do you do at FreshLand?
So what we do at FreshLand is shortening the food distribution chain so that instead of taking many months from farm till it arrives at your table, we can reduce that journey to just a few days. And in this way, we can actually harvest on demand. What does that mean? That means that when you go in tonight and place an order for a box of avocados,
Mhm.
only in a couple of days it will be harvested, and then next week we ship it to you. So that's a just-in-time, on-demand, lean supply chain. And
Wow.
we like to say that we are disrupting the food industry because what we do is contrary to what the food industry has developed towards for the last 30, 40 years. So if you look at the food industry today, you have a lot of middlemen that are all kind of taking a slice of the cake. So they have to buy at a lower price than what they sell to and make a profit in that way. But at the same time, the quality of the product is deteriorating. And what we do in FreshLand, that is cutting out all the middlemen and bringing more value back in the chain, back to the farmers, and at the same time getting a fresher and tastier product out to the consumer.
Yeah, and I can testimony to that because I love your avocados. They are really, they are amazing. I travel with my wife in one of these, tropical islands, and we tasted avocado, right from the market, and we know how it should taste. So then when
Exactly.
we find your website and we ordered the first box, it was amazing, and they last for about 2 weeks if you keep them like now in the fridge or somewhere cold. They're amazing. So I really love that, and I was really surprised when I saw on your website that sometimes for an orange that we buy from the supermarket that has been harvested, like you said, months ago, right? Sometimes.
Yes, try
Is-
to leave an orange from the supermarket in a closet and take it out half a year later. It will look exactly the same and be exactly as tasteless. And that's because the fruit we buy in the supermarket is often surface treated with a lot of chemicals, such as fungicide, skin healer, pesticides, and wax. And the wax is actually a derivative from the petroleum industry, so not very appetizing.
Wow, that's why when you see that grease or that strange material on the side of the orange, if you would like take a orange and wash it with warm water, you would take that away, and you see that on your hands or in the water. Is
And
that
you
what it is
cannot
on?
even wash it away because it's going into the fruit.
Oh wow,
So that's
wow.
why we think nature is clever or is intelligent. It has been developing the fruit for you to eat, not to store for many months. And actually, when you don't wash the fruit, like a grapefruit, for instance, it will have some, you can say, dirt or some spots on the surface. But that is a natural protection against fungicide. So a lot of these fruits, if you don't wash them, they can actually last for a pretty long time by natural means.
Wow. I didn't know that that's natural. I thought that was something else that would use. But I know you only deliver organic products, right? So
Yep.
everything that you sell, it's only organic.
Most of our things are organic, and that's marked with an organic certificate on the product page. But we also do have untreated products, so those are not organically certified. But we make sure that they don't have any pesticide residues and that they come natural from the tree.
Right. So you mentioned about the time to table, right? From harvest to table. So is that the biggest challenge that you're trying to solve for the food industry?
Yes, the farm to table is a matter of shortening the distribution chain as much as possible. And it actually started with my father-in-law, who was an orange farmer. And one year the price that the middleman wanted to pay for his oranges was so low that it didn't offset the cost of harvesting. And he left the oranges on the tree and didn't harvest them. And this was a cry for help for me and Felipe, my co-founder, that we had to do something. We could not just let these delicious oranges go to waste. So what we did was that we built a juice bike, and we went to the main shopping street in Denmark and actually squeezed the juice, because then everyone could try the taste of a natural orange. And the amazing thing was that everyone would try this juice, and then they would be like, where do I buy these oranges? And at that point in time, we didn't have a place to sell, so we could only sign them up on a list. And then when we had 200 customers signed on, we could actually go to one of the big supermarkets and tell them, we have a product, we have the demand, do you want to take us into your assortment? And that was actually the turning point, because when we got into the first supermarket, we spread to the whole chain of stores. And at this point in time, we were not FreshLand. We were just a small, you can say, extension of my father-in-law's orange farm in Portugal, trying to sell his oranges. And this became such a success that all the neighboring farms in his in Algarve, where he grows his oranges, they grow avocados and tomatoes and so on. And they started contacting us and saying, hey, can you do the same with our products as you did with Arthur's oranges? And we said, sure. And then we started making a platform inside the stores, like a farmer's market inside the normal retail stores, where we would sell direct from the farmer. And then fast forward in 2019, we went straight to the consumer. And that's a matter of the timing. You can say this was just before COVID hit. So we were quite lucky with the timing, because of course, when everyone were staying at home during COVID, people would buy their food online, and we had a very big spike in demand during that period. So, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, absolutely. And it was a good timing, because we started to buy things online. So are you still present in stores right now, or it's only online on your website?
So we changed the model, because what we experienced in the stores was that even though we would bring it fresh to the stores, we sometimes still ended up in a central warehouse in Jutland. And then they would lay there for many weeks and maybe months before they came out in the shop.
Right.
So we couldn't kind of ensure the freshness that we would like to ensure. And that made us change the model.
Right. And now, where are you selling? So I know some of the watchers, the viewers would want maybe to check up the products and also maybe order something. And you just mentioned, right? So today at midnight is the deadline for the next batch, right? So if they order by midnight, they will get it by next Wednesday. Is that true? Yeah.
Then our farmers go out and harvest tomorrow or on Friday, and then it is shipped on Saturday, and next week it arrives to your doorstep.
Wow, I didn't know that it's actually a harvest after I order.
Yes.
Wow.
And you only buy what is in season, what is right now growing on the trees.
Yeah, absolutely. Because I would love to taste some of your passion fruits and mangoes, but I know maybe they're not in season right now, so I'm gonna wait for that. But for someone wanting to order, like, what markets and what countries do you serve? Are you able to deliver to?
So we deliver in Denmark, which is our home market and where we started, and then we deliver to Sweden. I don't know if you have received your shipment in Sweden or in Denmark.
It was Denmark.
In Denmark, okay.
Yeah.
And then we deliver also to Netherlands.
All right.
And on the farmer side, we have farmers locally in the markets we are in, but we also have farmers in Italy, Portugal, Spain, Belgium. Those are the markets.
Right. So for someone, they just go to your website, because I know someone on our team will post those websites, at least for Denmark, Sweden, and Netherlands. They just go there and they choose whatever they want. They put it in the basket, and next Wednesday is delivered to their door.
Yeah. If they order tonight before midnight.
Yeah, I love that model, and I was surprised that when I woke up in the morning, it was 6 o'clock or something like that, and I already got a text message that my order was delivered. So when I opened the door, it was already there. And for me, because I moved to Denmark and I didn't really know where to get those products, and I didn't really know where to get the tasty avocados and tomatoes, then it was beautiful. And in convenient. I mean, I just order it. I know it's there, and you also offer a subscription model, right? So for people that want to have recurrent orders of the same products, right?
Yeah, because in that way you actually don't forget the order deadline.
Right, exactly. So
And also
you're
power.
probably gonna, yeah, you're probably gonna get me on those, for at least for avocados, and I know some other stuff, that chirimoya that my wife likes.
That's one of my favorite fruits. It's very good, the chamoy.
Right, but tell us a little bit about what do you see in the consumer market, right? So what us consumers, because now we're talking, the two of us and our viewers are, most of us will probably be end consumers, right? So we're not here to change the supermarket industry, but what we as consumers can do differently to encourage more of initiatives like yours.
I think it's important to be aware of what you're buying and what you're eating, and also ask questions. So if you see let's say a mango in the supermarket right now, it's not mango season. So what is the journey of that mango? And ask yourself those critical questions, because then you start also changing your behavior. And who wants to eat an apple that is 12 months old, for instance, or a mango that has been traveling by flight and is maybe 2 months old? So in that sense, it is about being aware of what you're eating, and most of the time you can also taste if something is fresh. If it doesn't taste good, or if it doesn't taste of much, then it's usually also a sign that it has been on a very long journey. And the problem about the long journey is not only that you are getting a less tasty product, it is also that you are emitting a lot of CO2 by storing food in cool chambers.
Mm.
So this is one of the biggest emitters actually in this whole distribution chain. That is two things. It is the storage, the cold storage and ripening chambers, and then it is all the food waste that result from storing food too long as well. 1/3 of all the food produced is actually going to waste. So in that sense, the traditional industry has to change. And when you buy food in the supermarket, you don't know what has happened before it arrived there. And I think that's what we have to change. We have to create more transparency so that people know what they're buying and they know the full journey of their food.
Wow. And we don't even question this. Like, I didn't. I like blueberries, and for example, right now I didn't really notice before that blueberries came from Chile or Brazil right now. And when you think about that, it's at the end of the world. They must be traveling by flight, right? If it takes by boat, that will be a 2-month journey, right? So and I remember when one of there was this CO2 footprint discussion before COVID, and we were
Mm.
discussing a lot about reducing the travel for business, right? And many businesses were affected because there was a resistance to book conference, offshore or on abroad. And one
Yeah.
of the things that really resonated with me was when someone shared, well, if you really want to make sure that you're making an impact into emitting less CO2, don't eat fruits that are not seasonable, right? So if you eat something like a mango right now that comes from South America, think that mango had to flew here. So that's also CO2, because it was easy to blame, the companies, because we're spending a lot of hours, flight hours, in going to conferences, but at the end consumer they wouldn't see what they could do. So this is an awareness for us to question and to read that label, right, on the package.
Yes, and it also just tastes much better to eat what is in season because it's fresh.
Yeah, absolutely. So what challenges did you met when you try to bring this model which is disrupting the food industry?
So we have met a lot of challenges. I don't even know exactly where to start, but I can start where it all began. So first of all, it started with the farmers, and some of the first farmers that worked with us, they had some really tough experiences. So we had a lemon farmer, and he had terminated his agreement with the middleman to sell through our platform. And one weekend, there were a truck going to his farm, and that truck was harvesting all the tiny lemons that were not of any commercial value. And the lemons you harvest when they have a certain size, and if it's small, you have to leave it on the tree to grow. And this truck of the middleman went to his farm in the weekend and harvested all the tiny fruit, so that he didn't have any fruit to harvest for the next half year.
Wow.
And they did that just to demonstrate the power towards that farmer, and to harm him so he couldn't sell through our platform.
Wow.
So that's one example. We also had experiences with the logistics partners that would delay our shipment. Not the logistic partner themselves, but they had outsourced to a middleman, because that middleman had many trucks going, and then sometimes the middleman becomes the logistic partner. And we didn't understand, why do our pallets always disappear when they arrive to Denmark? Like, what's going on? And then they appear again the week after. And then we found out that it was a middleman that was handling that last mile distribution for us, and didn't have an interest in us getting the fresh products fresh. And if he delayed it a week, then we couldn't say that it was 4 days from harvest.
Wow.
So those were the initial challenges. But when you are disrupting, when you are doing something different, when you are challenging status quo, you automatically get a lot of enemies, because you tell the inconvenient truth. And every time we speak about how fresh our fruit is, we are also implicitly reflecting back on the retail industry, where the fruits is not so fresh. So of course we are not the popular guy or girl in class. We are the ones that are maybe a bit idealistic. How have we experienced this more recently? I think that's we were in the middle of a fundraising, and then we were heavily criticized for our sustainability credentials, and also criticized for our work environment. And this harmed a lot of our fundraising. So we actually didn't succeed in fundraising, and had to close down one of our companies, and restructure the company. And that has been the toughest period in my entire journey as an entrepreneur. And some of it was maybe, you can say, some of it was some learnings that maybe we had to do, but some of it was also very tough and very unnuanced, I would say. So when you are entrepreneurs, things are going very fast. You are on a mission. It's a little bit like, imagine Greenpeace. You are hanging on the side of a ship, and you are trying to create awareness about that you don't want oil and stuff like that. Being an entrepreneur is a little bit like that. You're a little bit more activistic, and you're very passionate, and you're trying to disrupt an industry by taking a lot of action. And I think the backside of that is that some people just want a job and just want a salary. And for them, maybe this is not the right environment. And I think we had been too occupied with our fundraising and with our mission and so on, to actually see that we maybe had some people that were not happy in our company. The biggest, I can speak a lot about this. Maybe I will give the word back to you, Florin, so you can ask some more questions.
No, I think you're in the right. I mean, you're sharing some golden nuggets with us, because so many times we look at an entrepreneurial journey, or we look at someone that has some level of success, and we think that the journey was smooth, that they only went from success to success to success, and we don't really. Sometimes it's difficult for us to admit some of the mistakes we made, and admit some of the failures we had. So I think it's really important that you share that and you acknowledge that, and also maybe the learnings that you got from that. So what would you have done differently now if you would to go through that phase again?
So first of all, I would have been much more cost conscious. So I think when you are growing really fast, you are like, entrepreneurs are super optimist, but when you're at the same time growing double digit every month, like months over months, it's like there's like you cannot just imagine it disappearing. And I think what we experienced during COVID was a very, very fast growth. In 2020, we grew 13x what we compared to the year before in our business to consumer segment.
Wow.
So this was just a crazy journey, and we were just hiring and hiring and hiring, and also firing and firing, because we got a lot of people on board, and we were not very critical. And we went from a handful of people to 50 people in 1 year.
Wow.
And that is fine if the growth had continued, but then it seemed that the whole online market kind of stagnated. And I guess it's also that now all the companies had time to actually adapt their business model to target the consumers, whereas when COVID just hit, you had all the B2B businesses that was kind of out of business for a period until they turned around and were able to target the business to consumer customers.
Right.
So the market space got much more crowded, and at the same time, it seemed also that more customers were going back to their usual routines of ordering products offline in stores because there were less COVID restrictions. And that, coupled with us having been building up fixed cost, and then we were fundraising, and suddenly we were hit by a media storm. That was just really bad timing, I would say.
Wow. So there was
So,
no way for you to plan for all that, right? I mean, what could you have imagined?
so it's actually interesting because as a bootstrap company, I mean, we started with our savings, and we have been running a really tight economy and had financial discipline all the time until COVID hit. Because this was so unusual and we were growing so fast that we were just not focusing on cost. And I think that's where I would maybe have that's one of the learnings, that I would have focused more on cost also in the like when you grow, not only when you are contracting, but also when you grow, focus a lot on cost and focus a lot on having liquidity. And I mean, we were too late in fundraising. That was where we hit the wall.
Right.
And rather fundraise when you are going up, because that's where you have the negotiation power.
Yeah. Well, but those were lessons that probably were necessary, right, on the journey, because now you know if a new COVID hit or a new explosive growth hits, you know how to handle that, right?
Well, I
You're
don't
more prepared. Okay, let's say
know.
you more.
That's the whole leadership aspect, and I know that you know much more about that than me, Florin. I mean, I'm still a novice. I'm still learning. But one important learning from all of this is, I know that you wanted to ask me about what was the best leadership advice. So maybe I'm
Yeah,
anticipating your question.
absolutely.
So one advice that I got, and that I believe a lot in, that is foundation for building a culture, building an organization, that is trust. If you don't have trust, you don't have the foundation. Then you are standing on a wobbly ground. And that was the situation. Philippe and I had been absent from our team and from our organization, out meeting with investors, standing at different stages and speaking about our company and selling the company mission, but not focusing on our team. And that was a big mistake. And then combined with being in a massive media storm, being criticized for our work environment and so on, that becomes the truth. When you have a national newspaper that says that kind of thing about you, then it becomes a new truth, because you're not there to show the people who you are. And that was a huge shake for our company. It created a lot of instability, and because we didn't have that foundation of trust, then it was very hard to kind of repair. And on top of that, the journalists were going after the employees, so they wanted the employees to go to to make statements and to tell them what was going on inside FreshLand and so on. And that is even more devastating for the trust, because then you have basically, I think it's called a mall, like in muldvarp in Danish, that are leaking anything. You don't know, are you being recorded when you have a meeting with somebody?
Yeah.
like what is going on, and that makes it very, very hard to actually build trust and build a culture. So I think what we should have done in hindsight, we should have been much closer to our team and much earlier on, and we shouldn't have let this develop. And then I think we should also have had some professional coaching from a leadership consultant that could also help us developing our personal leadership style. I'm much more into thought leadership and into like like yeah, being a little bit bold, whereas
Hmm.
Felipe is much more traditional management consulting style kind of a leader, but using our different styles in a way that is convincing and that is inspiring and motivating.
Yeah, absolutely. So that was so valuable for anyone watching because you share some really good things there. Like so many times I see these also in other cases. So I had other clients that went through media storms, and it was nasty, and sometimes it's unfair. I mean, many times it's unfair. That's why we're trying now. Now we have a platform here to maybe share a little bit of a different version of the story, and so that's important that you share that with us, and also you being present with your team, right? So that's again, um, proximity is power. So when you were away and focused on getting investment, maybe things were going on that you were not aware of, right? So
Totally.
very, yeah,
Mhm.
very good point there. And trust, I think you just hit the nail on the head, right? Because without trust we cannot do anything. So even if you had the funding, then if you lack the trust, then was also not a solid foundation. So thank you so much for sharing this with you today with us today. It was great to hear the story. I love the product. So again, there will be a link in the comments there. Make sure that you place your orders today because is the deadline for you to get it by Wednesday. And Mathilde, I want to kind of end with a question that we usually ask our guests. Look, what does leadership mean for you today?
So leadership for me means creating change, but change beyond my own reach. So for me, leadership is when I can change how consumers behave and thereby change a whole industry. But that's not by telling the customers what they should do. That is by showing the way, showing how good a product can be when it's in season and direct from the farm. Because then the customers will automatically start asking themselves in the supermarket, how old is this banana? How old is this avocado? And they will automatically start demanding fresher products. So for me, leadership is that. That is to show the way and to provide alternatives and to let the people themselves make critical decisions, not for me to tell anyone what to do.
Wow, that's so good. And you having an advocate in me, I love what you're doing and I love your products. And now I'm much more critical when I look at the labels on products because I ask myself that, how long does has this fruit, been in the belly of a sheep or maybe in the plane or maybe somewhere in the store. So thank you so much for your time today. I hope you're gonna have a productive day because I know it's orders, and I'm gonna go and place mine. All right. Thank you for joining us.
Lauren, it was really nice chatting with
Yeah,
you.
you're welcome. Take care. Bye bye.